Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Cinema Savvy. It is myself, George, joined once more by Tate for a very special video. A video we've not done in, I want to say, just under a year.
Mm.
It's one of our top 10 ranking videos. And this is one of the different ones we don't do too often. The scale of these are very different to how most of these videos are doing. We are, of course, counting down the top 10 greatest Walt Disney Animation Studios in honor of the 100th anniversary of the studio and the upcoming release of Wish, which is out in cinemas this Friday, the 24th. We're, of course, pre-recording this video. And we're not just going to be doing our own top 10s. We're not going to be having a definitive top 10 list. We've got some amazing contributors who have sent in videos. You may have recognized them from our channel, from other videos, reviews, discussions, and many more, and maybe a couple of new faces as well, which is exciting for us to be able to bring them on board. So it's a very different video. It feels... We've only done a handful of these, if I'm being really honest. So we're still sort of new to it. But before I get into any of that, Tate, how are we doing today?
Yeah, doing very good. Good to be back with another ranking video. I know we didn't have any build-up. We haven't gone and reviewed every single Walt Disney Animated Classic. But I'm really excited for the kind of 100th year of Disney celebrations. I'm excited to go and see Wish. And I'm excited to see what everyone thinks is the best Disney film of all time, or at least a definitive top 10 that we can say for ourselves from our contributors towards the channel.
Absolutely that. Listen, including our two lists, there are going to be 10 in total. We have a lot of graphics, we have a lot of videos. But if people are curious about how we do these, then I'm going to go over the point system for you all at home. So, and I'll also add on, as always, if you comment your top 10 or pop them over to us on Twitter, we'll do a Photoshop if you want it, because we have a system in place, a template of sorts, and it does look pretty nice when we get to see it, what everyone's picks are, but we get to visualize them in posters. But the way our point system works, we count down from 10 through to 1. 10th place will get 1 point. 9th place will get 2 points. 8th place will get 4 points. 7th place gets 6 points. 5th place gets 8 points. 4th place gets 10 points. 3rd place gets 12. No, have I missed this up already?
Hold
on.
Possibly.
It's F1 points. Have we got it right? Okay.
Yeah.
10th place is 1 point. 9th place is 2 points. 8th place is 4 points. 7th place is 6 points. 6th place is 8 points. 5th place is 10 points. 4th place is 12 points. 3rd place is 15 points. 2nd place is 18 points. 1st place is 25 points. As you can guess, I've not been watching F1 this year. Ironically said, the Rushborn documentary came out this week. And yesterday / this morning would have been the Vegas Grand Prix, which we're predicting in the future, the coldest F1 race on record, because they forgot that it would be cold at midnight.
Cold in a desert in winter.
Yes, we're not here to talk about the top 10 most controversial F1 moments. I know exactly what will be number one. It'll be a very different video, and people have already clicked off. So, what we're going to do, we're going to introduce each of our guests. They have submitted their videos. They too pre-recorded it. So, we're going to play their video, and then we're going to count down. We're going to see their ranking at the end. Then we'll have a very quick chat, a couple of lines about what I thought was like anything jumps out in particular. We're not going to slam their opinions or anything like that. But it is always curious. And again, there's something as iconic as Disney, with us growing up probably a lot of these films or the history of them within the industry. There's going to be variations in these top 10s. So it's going to be a very different top 10 video. And of course, there are 61 Disney animated classics. So by default, there's going to be a load of films that didn't get any picks. Maybe some surprises. And I'll leave that for you to find out. But as Tater, do comment with us. But if we're going to segue over, first up, we've got Charlie.
Okay, here is my top 10 Disney animated films. In 10th place is Alice in Wonderland. I have been in love with the Cheshire Cat ever since I was a child, so it would be wrong for me to not include it in my list. So at number 10, Alice in Wonderland. At number 9, Aristocats. It was a toss-up between Aristocats and 101 Dalmatians to make number 9, and I'm much more of a cat person, so that's on there in that spot. Number 8, Wreck-It Ralph. I love both films. I think they're both brilliant. So the first one is on the list, holding the spot for both of them, really. I think it's just so funny and so witty and so original, and yeah, just a great film. Number 7 is Tangled. I think of the recent princess films, it's easily one of the best ones, if not the best one. I think the soundtrack is incredible. I love that it has a proper Disney villain. It really plays with all the original conventions of the animated classics of the earlier days, but brings it very much into sort of modern times with its animation style and character building. And yeah, I love it. Tangled. Number 6, very appropriately, is Big Hero 6, the only mention of Marvel on the Disney animated list, and I just think it's really held its own over the years, incorporates all those things that we love about superhero films, but manages to bring it into the sort of warmth and heart of an animated film, and who doesn't love Baymax? Number 5, I think, will probably be at the top of most people's lists, is The Lion King. I think it would be wrong to not include it. It's probably, if not the best 2D animated film of all time. I think it's beautiful in colour, in character design, in music, in storytelling. It's just completely flawless, and I love it. Number 4, Princess and the Frog. My favourite of the Disney classic animated princesses. I think her story is so important and so relevant and so beautifully told. The music is so appropriate for where it's set, and the songs are just so incredibly moving and exciting and funny, and it's got everything that a Disney film should have, whilst also being told through 2D animation, which is something that we obviously don't see a lot of these days. So yeah, Princess and the Frog at number 4. Number 3 is Hunchback of Notre Dame. Quite rightly dubbed a musical masterpiece, which it should be. It's a classic story told in the classic medium that Disney do so well. It's got such incredible characters. Esmeralda is such an incredible female character to have at the heart of such a beautiful film. I just can't say enough good things about it, really. So Hunchback is there at number 3. The top 2 I found quite difficult to choose between. Ever since I was a child, I have loved them both equally. They're like my children. So it was quite a difficult decision to decide which one would come first. But in second place is Hercules. It's a classic for so many reasons. It has incredible music, incredible characters. It's beautiful. It's just an all-timer. And then at number 1 is Tarzan. The music of Phil Collins is just so incredibly well-fitting with the film, and I love it so dearly. So yes, Tarzan is my number 1 Disney animated film.
So thank you for that, Charlie. Very, very good first list. Good, strong start. A nice balance between the old Disney stuff and also some of the new stuff in there. We've got a few picks in a row. Was it a Big Hero 6? I saw Princess and the Frog in there as well. We've got some modern classics, shall we say. Wreck-It Ralph in there as well. Look at that. It's a very, very well-balanced list between the different eras of Disney in there. So I'm liking that quite a lot.
Yeah, and it's nice to see Alice in Wonderland in there as well. I know it's an attempt, but listen, when they're doing the editing, there was a very conscious decision, and I think I'd messaged you before. I know that. Do we go for the modern posters that we see on like the DVDs and Blu-rays and stuff, or like try and find the theatrical ones? And it was basically a history lesson going through all the original Disney posters. I'm like, I've never seen not these films. I was like, I've never seen that like any of these posters. And then that'd be like, this is a 1980 re-release, and it came out 30 years before. And you're like, Christ, okay. But yeah, no, I love that list as well. And it's a great way to get going. Listen, we always wanted Charlie on this. She goes to Disneyland a lot. She's been recently. She's got the ears in the video. And there's no way we could do this video without getting Charlie involved. So thank you for sending it in. And next up, following on from Charlie, we've got another familiar face to the channel. We have Paul with his top 10.
Hey, Cinema Savvy. What's up? It's Paul. I'm here to give my top 10 Disney animated films. This was a really difficult list to compile because I love all of them in their own way, but I managed to whittle it down to 10. So here they are. At number 10 is Tarzan. I just really love this film. I love the Phil Collins music. I think the way that they did the story with the gorillas and everything, I think is really great. I just think it's a really great film. I think it's quite underrated. Like, even though it did well, I just think it's really overlooked, and I think it's wonderful. Number 9, Hercules. Again, I think Hercules is really overlooked. I think people remember James Woods as the voice of Hades, who is great, one of the great Disney villains, but I actually think the songs are great. And I think that Meg is one of the best Disney heroines ever. At number 8, Mulan. Growing up with a younger sister, the VHS of Mulan got rinsed, and I really like it. I think it's a bit different in that it deals with warfare head on, which is maybe not something you expect from Disney. I think the jokes work. I think Ming-Na Wen's voice work is amazing. I just think it's really good. Number 7, Zootopia, or Zootropolis, whatever you want to call it. I think it works because it's telling a story of like race and acceptance, but in a way that kids can understand. And I was really surprised by it because I didn't expect to like it, but I thought it was fantastic. Number 6, Beauty and the Beast. I love Beauty and the Beast. It's like the only Disney movie, like animated, that's been up for Best Picture. The songs are the best. The voice acting is amazing. Angela Lansbury's a teapot. It's so wonderful. It's like you forget you're watching an animated film, and it's just really good. Number 5, Hunchback of Notre Dame. I think at the time people didn't get it, and I think nowadays the people that grew up watching it, like our generation, really get it. And I thought, it's so good. It's so good. Tony Jay as the voice of Frollo is not just one of the best Disney villains, he's just one of the best movie villains. He's so good. He's so evil. And, again, in a similar way to Zootopia and to Mulan to an extent, it's about acceptance and about, it's dealing with racism and stuff like that in a really, child-friendly way. Number 4, Lilo and Stitch. Lilo and Stitch is such a great character, but I think Lilo and Stitch is so great, and everyone talks about Frozen as a great sister story, and Lilo and Stitch did it first and did it better. I think the characters of Peakley and Jumba are hilarious, and I think that by the end of it, it's just really moving. Like, Ohana means family, and family means no one gets left behind or forgotten. Number 3 is Tangled. I adore Tangled so much. Tangled is so good. Tangled is so good. Great songs. I know people don't like Zachary Levi anymore, but he's so well cast. Donna Murphy's so well cast, and Mandy Moore. They're also it's really good. And Pascal, the little chameleon, is one of the best characters in the Disney film. Number 2 is Wreck-It Ralph. I cannot watch Wreck-It Ralph without blubbering like a mess at the end. I think John C. Reilly has the most soothing, kind of lovable voice. I think Sarah Silverman's really good in it. I think Jane Lynch is really good in it. And I just think, again, it's that kind of thing of teaching kids, you might not be what you expect, but you're good the way you are. I am bad, and that's good. I will never be good, and that's not bad. There's no one I would rather be than me is a great lesson. And number 1, The Lion King. I love The Lion King. It is my all-time favourite movie. I've seen it on stage. I own about 50 different Lion King mugs. A giant Simba watches me when I sleep. It's a perfect film. There's not a thing wrong with it, which is why Jon Favreau was a madman to remake it. It's so perfect. It's so perfect. And I love it so much. I used to know it word. I still probably do. I used to know it word for word and would perform it like a one-man stage show if drunk enough and on cue. And I think it's so good. It's just so good. I love The Lion King. The Lion King's so good. I would just go on about it forever. But those are my top 10. Tarzan, Hercules, Mulan, Zootopia, Beauty and the Beast, Hunchback of Notre Dame, Lilo and Stitch, Tangled, Wreck-It Ralph, and The Lion King.
Thank you, Paul, for your top 10. Loved a couple of quotes in there. Angela Lansbury as a teapot and a giant Simba watches me sleep being two of my favourites from that video. A lot of love for the Disney Renaissance there as well. A lot of picks in that Renaissance era. Fascinating to see 2 lists in so far. Is it starting to shape up? I can't actually tell yet whether the full top 10 is shaping up.
Yeah, well, we're going to find out over the next couple of videos, I guess, with regards to top 10. But I've known Paul for a while, and I know that The Lion King is one of his favourite films of all time, as he says in the video as well. So I'm just going to bring up his list. I'm just going to quickly jump out and say we've got Tarzan on the board again, and Lilo and Stitch, which is a film I remember. I don't say I grew up with it, but I was very aware of it growing up, and I think it's one where could be a dark horse without sort of jumping where things could go. Because
interesting.
I think now they're doing a live action remake. I don't think it's sacrilege to bring those up on this video today. But I know Lilo and Stitch has a cast, and that is maybe, I say next. There's a lot of things that seem to be next on the list. Hopefully they make finished films, unlike not Pocahontas. They're definitely not doing that one. Unlike the one from last year, which I've already forgotten, Pinocchio. That will do. But moving aside from criticising live-action remakes, we've got Dave with his top 10, which I'm very excited to play for you all now.
And as always, thank you so much for having me back again on the Cinema Savvy channel. So here we go. We'll go with my top 10 Disney. And starting at number 10, 2014, Big Hero 6. Just this kind of snuck into my top 10. I think it's great. I think it's bold. I think it's colourful. I love their take on the superhero. I love Baymax as the titular character. I just think he is not titular. He's not the main character of the group are, but you know what I mean. Baymax is awesome. So yeah, that's number 10. Number 9 is from 2012. It's Wreck-It Ralph. I love John C. Reilly. I love that take on the inside of the video game world. I love things like the therapy scene with the bad guys. Not just because bad guy doesn't mean you're a bad guy. Just know that. So yeah, that is my number 9. Number 8, it is from 2021. It is Encanto. I love the music of Lin-Manuel. I think his take on these Disney tunes is just phenomenal. It's a soundtrack that my son has in my playlist. Definitely not just in my playlist all the time. It is. Family Madrigal, we're there for that. So yeah, that is my number 8 pick. Number 7, we jump back. It's 1967's The Jungle Book. Probably one of the first Disney films I saw. Who couldn't love Baloo and Mowgli and their adventure? Not the CG monstrosity we saw later down the line. But yeah, that classic Jungle Book, King of the Swingers, some amazing tunes. Bare Necessities is just wow. So yeah, that takes me right back, and that is my number 7 pick. Number 6, it is from 1992, and it's Aladdin. And can you go past this without just saying Robin Williams? As much as he hated how they used his name and his character for the merchandising of this movie, the film itself is that real top tier Disney, and he made it what he did. So yeah, number 6 is Aladdin. Number 5, we are back to 1994, and it's The Lion King. From the opening Elton John track, the animals running to see the presentation of Simba, to the buffalo running, the wildebeest running over the cliff, to how that was done and the technology they used, to Timon and Pumbaa and Mufasa and Scar and Rowan Atkinson being a little bird. And it's still great. It's one of those that you can revisit time and time again. So yeah, that's my number 5 choice. Number 4, I don't know if this is going to be on many people's list, but number 4 from 2008 is Bolt. I love Bolt. It's one of my fun, easy to watch go-to movies. I love John Travolta's performance in the movie. Miley's in it. Who doesn't want to watch a film with Miley in it? It's all about the climb and things like that. But yeah, so I just think it's a really fun story. I love the dog who doesn't know he's not a superhero and he's on television. I just like the way they did it. So yeah, number 4 for me is Bolt. Number 3, right the way back, 1941, and Dumbo. This was one of my favourites as I was growing up. I love Timothy Mouse. I love the scene where they're just mortal on champagne, blowing bubbles and pink elephants on parade and scaring the crap out of you when you're little with that. Yes, there's some racism issues with crows and things in this movie, and it's one of those things you have to kind of pick and choose your things like, oh, I know what that is, and it's not a nice thing, but it's a childhood thing, and I still adore the movie Dumbo, and who doesn't cry when a mother hangs her trunk out and wants to cradle a little elephant? Doesn't happen very often in life, but makes me cry anyway. That takes us down to number 2, which is from 1991. It is Beauty and the Beast. Can you really put anything close to this when you are looking at a film that was nominated not just as Best Animated Picture, but Best Picture? It just seems crazy these days that would even get a look in. Some movies might get close, but Beauty and the Beast is the first one where you maybe felt that it actually had a chance of winning. The use of computer graphics of some of it, the actual storytelling is amazing, the songs are wonderful. I just think as an overall piece, Beauty and the Beast is pretty much top tier for me. That's really the height of Disney. But if that's the height of Disney, what could be your number 1? Well, number 1 from 1973 is Robin Hood and Little John wandering through the forest. And you know what? It's just a simple thing. This is one of my favourite Disney movies as I grew up, and I still adore it today. It's very loose on the ground in terms of storytelling, but I just think it's great. I know it's reused animation, and you can tell when you watch it back now how much they've just gone, well, we'll take from that and we'll just recolor it and we'll use it for this. But I love the telling of the Robin Hood story. I love the way Disney did it. And yeah, that is my number 1 from 1973. It's Robin Hood. So that has been my list of my top 10 Disney. You probably don't agree with it, and that's absolutely fine. We are here to not agree with everybody's choices, but everyone's choice is valid, especially mine. So yeah, thanks very much for having me, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you ever so much, Dave. That is a great list. That is a very unusual list as well, I have to say. A few picks on there that I don't think I would personally agree with, but it's nice to see that different people have different experiences with Disney. And this is the thing that, they've had so many films put out over the years that everyone's going to have different choices and different picks from different areas. So it's really nice to see a list that isn't, similar to my own, and that's definitely got its own identity to it. So I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I'm just going to bring up as well, and I've not seen Robin Hood, but it was very nice to hear it being at the top of Dave's only because my dad always talks about watching Robin Hood at the cinema, and he was younger, so I didn't know if it's a film people enjoy or if they don't, but obviously Dave does, which is always great to see. And next up, we have someone, I don't know how, and if anyone's watched this that knows him, this is the first time Ren from Ren's Geekness has been on our channel, and it's weird doing it for Ascending video. I've known Ren for a while. He's an absolute hero. We've all met him at events. Go subscribe. I should have said this at the beginning. We've got links to everyone's social media in the description of the video of the people that contributed. If they've got YouTube channels, they put the YouTube links in, Twitter, etc. for those that are maybe not on YouTube. So we've finally got Ren on the channel, but we will need to get him on properly in the future. No doubt about that. But yes, without further ado.
Hello, Cinema Savvy fans. My name is Ren Geekness, and this is my top 10 Disney animated films. At my number 10, we have Zootopia, a fantastic tale of coexistence with many admirable mature themes, funny gags, incredibly fleshed out characters, and a wonderful world you just love to be a part of. My number 9 is Tangled, the first of Disney's revival era, which will see the studio adapt exclusively to 3D animation, but in every way, a classic Disney fairy tale story filled with the magic and centered on one of Disney's all-time great couples whose personalities so naturally and organically complement each other. At number 8, the operatic, epic, grandiose Gothic masterpiece known as The Hunchback of Notre Dame. To this day, Disney's darkest, most mature film yet, dealing with themes of morality, righteousness, but ultimately the line between kindness and wickedness. It has some of the most incredibly animated set pieces ever put to screen, and the soundtrack and score by Alan Menken are absolutely divine. Number 7, Big Hero 6. A wonderful blend of the classic Disney magic and the superhero genre, creating for a story full of heart, adventure, and heart-pumping action, becoming an instant classic on the Disney lineup and on the superhero genre, with Baymax, of course, forever being a fan favorite, with good reason. Moana is number 6. To this day, it is visually one of the most gorgeous films I have ever seen. Every frame is a dazzling visual, and it takes all the required ingredients for a timeless Disney classic, and it imbues them with a distinct culture, a distinct mythology, memorable characters, funny side characters, and it puts it all together, creating something that feels reinvigoratingly new for Disney, with an entire collection of memorable songs all through the film. Hercules brings us into the top 5. Disney's funniest film, in big part because of one of its all-time great villains in Hades. It's all at once a celebration of the hero's journey. It is a classic hero story, but also a deconstruction of the legend and the mythos while exploring Greek mythology. It has all these great ingredients that makes it timeless. Tarzan is number 4, and you know this film did something right when, after years of being a celebrated literary work by Edgar Rice Burroughs, the Disney film became the quintessential version of the character, taking all the ingredients that define the character and bringing into a whole new world, a whole new generation, and a whole new medium of storytelling. It is one of the most compelling stories Disney has ever told. Well, Phil Collins made sure he went hard on this song and imbued it with so much emotion. Every moment with a Phil Collins song in this film feels epic. Number 3, Beauty and the Beast. The first ever animated film to be nominated for Best Picture, and with good reason. The magic of this story is absolutely timeless. The animation still looks gorgeous. Every character beat and character dynamic are perfectly crafted and developed through the film. It is a wonderful love story. It is a wonderful gothic romance. It has atmospheric. It has this music that just absorbs you into the world, and a fantastic villain in Gaston that works so well because in any other Disney movie, he would be the hero. Treasure Planet is my number 2. Not only Disney's most underrated film of all time, the overall most underrated film of all time. A perfect, seamless blend between classic 2D animation and 3D elements to create space and the clouds and the ships, and such a natural, unique reinvention of Robert Louis Stevenson's classic story. This was Disney's Star Wars before they had Star Wars. It is a fantastic story about growing up, about setting your own charts, and it tells it in this way that Disney has never done before. Here is when Disney pulled that villain with a heart of gold trick for the first time, and here is when they did it best. Plus, you have a Goo Goo Dolls song. Who doesn't want a Goo Goo Dolls song in your movie? The Lion King is, to me, the best Disney animated film of all time. It is the overall best animated film of all time. It is Shakespearean and mature and hilarious, and it has these memorable songs that just stay with you for your whole life. It is a film that gets better and better with age, and every time you go back to it, it just gets better, and you're allowed to reinterpret it in a different way. That's a sign of an all-time great movie. Plus, behind the scenes, it is a quintessential underdog story where Disney was putting all their resources, all their best teams into Pocahontas, and this was the little movie that could. And over 30 years later, here we are still singing Hakuna Matata and Circle of Life and Can You Feel the Love Tonight, celebrating the greatest Disney animated film ever.
Thank you ever so much, Ren, for your list. We have our first repeat at the top with The Lion King. Ooh, is Lion King going to break away? We'll find out as we go through the video. I'm really interested in his number 2 pick, Treasure Planet, because it's the first time it's been on anyone's lists. And I really do love the film, and I think he's given it enough respect here. It is an underrated classic. I don't think enough people talk about it. And I think it's been given a bit more love now that it's available quite freely on Disney Plus, and people have gone back to the old classics like Treasure Planet. But I wanted to get your thoughts on that as well.
I've never seen Treasure Planet. I'm just gonna. I remember it coming out at school because the poster I had, and this is what's really strange. So I've got it on the board. I wanted to get Ren's top 10 on, but I had a bit of merchandise for Treasure Planet, and for some reason I had the novelization of the film, and I read it as a kid. But I wasn't. Obviously, back then, your parents take you to the cinema. I think it was 2002. I could be wrong. If it was 2002, I can tell you precisely why I didn't watch it at the cinema. A little film called Attack of the Clones came out, and The Chamber of Secrets, and Spider-Man. But I distinctly always remember having the book for it because I love the poster. And you know what? It's a film that I did pick up. I've just also not got around to watching it. I know they're all on Disney Plus, but I still like buying my films because they can't take them off Disney Plus because they will try it one day. But that being said, Lion King 2 number ones, and we'll see if that trend continues. But next up, we're bringing on Aaron. Aaron at the movies. He was on our Zodiac review recently. I've been on his channel. Please do check him out and subscribe. There's a lot of great stuff on there. And he's also got videos featuring other contributors from this series in this video. So,
hi everyone, I'm Aaron from the YouTube channel Aaron at the Movies, and I somehow have to give you my top 10 Disney animated classics, which was very hard considering there's like 61 animated classics. So trying to choose 10 was a tough feat, but I managed to do it, and I've got my top 10 list here. So without any further ado, these are my top 10 Disney animated classics. At number 10, I have The Little Mermaid. I mean, it's a classic. The animation is stunning. The story is genuinely quite compelling. And the music is also really good in this film as well. Plus, I think Ursula is one of the most intimidating Disney villains they've ever done. At number 9, I have Wreck-It Ralph. It's a fun movie. I think I could say this about all of the films in my list, but the animation is stunning again. But I definitely think them taking the whole video game aspect and really making it work to their advantage to tell like these very heartwarming themes and messages, I think really works. Plus the characters are a lot of fun as well. Number 8 is a film I don't think enough people talk about, and that's Fantasia. It's a very unique film in Disney's back catalogue because I can't think of any other film by Disney or by anyone that is remotely like Fantasia. Plus, I just think the way it melds the animated visuals and the music is just so gorgeous to look at and watch it unfold. I was stunned by it as a kid, and I'm still stunned by it now as an adult. Number 7, I have a childhood favourite of mine, Lilo and Stitch. Again, what do I say about Lilo and Stitch that hasn't already been said? It's a very charming, lovable film. And again, the characters in this film, which also could be said for a lot of the Disney movies, are what make the film more enjoyable, and I think that heavily applies to Lilo and Stitch. And number 6, I have Big Hero 6. That was not intentional, putting this at the 6th spot, but it happened by accident, so I'm just going to keep it there. At number 5, I have Aladdin. This is kind of a modern classic now, and I love the fact that it's managed to kind of hold its own against the other Disney classics. Is it as good as it is because of Robin Williams as the genie? Yeah, but it's got a lot of other stuff going for it as well that I think makes it stand on its own 2 feet. And number 4, I have Beauty and the Beast, which again is kind of a modern classic at this point. The animation is stunning, the music is great, and I just love the story of this one as well, especially how it unfolds in the final act. And Gaston is a great villain as well. And number 3 is Tangled, which is my favourite of the recent Disney animated films. In terms of their output in the last 10 to 20 years, this one just stands out to me. Don't get me wrong, I like Frozen. I like all the other stuff they've made, like Zootopia. But Tangled just works on so many levels for me. It's funny, it's compelling, it's got a really good villain. It's just really good. Tangled is such a good film. And number 2, I have The Lion King, which, I mean, what do I say about The Lion King that hasn't already been said? It's a behemoth of a film, and what it is able to do in its animated form is genuinely still impressive to this day, and it's a lot more impressive than the 2019 live action one. And at number 1, and I'm probably the only person to put this at the top of their list, is The Emperor's New Groove. This film holds a special place in my heart. It's the film I've watched the most in my life. I've watched it tons as a kid. I could happily watch it a million times more as an adult. I also think it's Disney's funniest movie to date. I've found it funny every time I watch it, and I will probably still find it funny in like 10 or 20 years' time. And it's just the most entertaining for me. I could watch this film God knows how many times, still find it an absolute blast to watch. And again, the characters in this film are brilliant, whether it's Kuzco, Kronk especially, who has some of the funniest moments in the film, or Yzma, who is a fantastic villain. Everything about The Emperor's New Groove just works for me, and that's why it's at the top of my list.
Thank you ever so much, Aaron, for your list. A couple of first timers this late into the competition coming in. So we had Little Mermaid in there, we had Fantasia, getting a bit of love for those films, but most notably, your number 1 pick of Emperor's New Groove. Fascinating, absolutely fascinating. Brilliant. Thank you for expanding the list further and giving Emperor's New Groove a good chance of being quite high up on the overall list.
Yeah, and as well as that, I want to talk about Fantasia being on there as well. The third Disney animated classic, I believe, that was released came out in, I think, 1940. If my brain is wrong, please someone comment. And one we've spoke about already, The Little Mermaid. First time it's made the list. One of the classics, of course, had its live action remake early this year. But I thought it might have popped up on a couple more lists by now. But who knows? We are at the halfway point. So we're starting to see a trend, but who knows what could happen next. And speaking of next, delighted to be running off the channel for the first time. Josh Martin Jones, he works for the streamer and the Disney Insider. He, I say covers things and Football Manager. There's a lot of stuff. So shout out to Josh. Follow him. Check out his writing as well. He knows a lot more about I ever could than Disney. So it's always great to get his insights. It's been amazing to get him on for this video. So thank you for sending in, and we'll just hit play now.
Hi, I'm very excited to be sharing my top 10 Disney ranking in honor of the studio's 100th anniversary, and what better way to start it at number 10 than with Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. This film is a timeless classic and perfectly represents the evolution that Disney has undergone over decades of storytelling. Despite the values and the actual core of these stories being told has stayed the same, the medium of animation has changed in so many wonderful ways. From 2D to 3D back to 2D and so on. And I just think this is a great film to start with. Number 9 is a personal one for me. It is Brother Bear. I think the journey of self-discovery and acceptance that is featured in this one is really, really important. It's also one from my childhood that I did watch a lot, so it has a very special place in my heart. Number 8 is Beauty and the Beast. As far as spectacles go, this film is certainly one of them, with Be Our Guest being just a tremendous animated sequence. Very grateful that this film has some awesome storytelling, some great songs, and overall it just feels like it's the perfect ticking of boxes when it comes to Disney films. At number 7, I have Tangled. I really enjoyed this one, especially Mandy Moore's performance as Rapunzel, Zachary Levi as Flynn Rider. I think the pair have great chemistry. The lantern scene, it's beautiful. It never gets old, and it's just a really enjoyable adventure film. Next up at 6, we have Lilo and Stitch. Stitch, for me, is one of the greatest original characters that Disney has ever produced. For someone created what is now 20 years ago to still be so prevalent and present as he is remarkable. On merchandise, in the theme parks, worldwide, spin-off materials, follow-up films, and a live-action retelling in the works. There's plenty more Stitch to come, and rightly so. The film itself, the Elvis music, the family origins at the centre of the story just works really well, and I love this one. Number 5 is The Princess and the Frog, and this film was very important, especially for the progression of Disney as a studio. After a few sluggish CG animated releases with Chicken Little, Meet the Robinsons and Bolt, the studio took a step back and returned to the origins and went for hand-drawn 2D animation. This film, I kid you not, is beautiful. It is rich with culture and storytelling, has a great soundtrack, and overall is a really fun time. Number 4 is Moana. For me, this film is some of the best Disney animation to date. I think visually it is incredible. I have yet to see a film since Moana that has matched that animation quality. And also it's got Lin-Manuel Miranda scoring the soundtrack, so it's quite incredible. I think he is a lyrical genius, so having a soundtrack purely produced by him for a Disney film was very special. For me, the top 3 is very, very close. All films included are sensational, superb, however you want to describe them, but I've gone with Lion King at 3rd. This is the ultimate Disney film for me. The music, I think the storytelling, a play on Hamlet by Shakespeare, works really well. I've seen it God knows how many times and will continue to watch it for many years. It's a very family-orientated film, and I have fond memories of watching it growing up, like many of the films on this list. And it is just a shame that the live-action retelling of this film did this film so dirty. Despite being a technical masterpiece, it lost all the emotion that this animated film portrays so well. So yeah, that's my 3rd place. Getting the silver medal in 2nd place is Hercules. I really enjoyed this film. Diving into some Greek mythology is always an interesting take. With Percy Jackson being a great example of how to do Greek mythology justice. Hercules has a great voice ensemble. You've got Danny DeVito as Phil, being the highlight of that ensemble. The songs as well. It's very easy to win me over with a Disney song, so Hercules having so many good ones is amazing. You've got Zero to Hero, you've got I Won't Say I'm in Love. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. It's great. It's a really fun time with Hercules and the gang and the adventure he goes on from finding out he is the son of a god to defeating Hades. It's what you want. And finally, number 1 is Aladdin. I have seen this film countless times. It is perfect. I think Robin Williams' voice performance as the genie is one of the best voice acting performances of all time, and not just in a Disney film. This film has everything. It's got the stunning animation, the great songs. I really appreciate an adventure story. The diamond in the rough as well. Again, it had a live action retelling that I really enjoyed, so that sort of helps. But I think this is probably my most watched Disney film of all time. And without this film, we wouldn't have had A Whole New World, which is, again, just, it's purely iconic. It is great. It's pure. It's classic. It's classic Disney. It works so well. So yes.
Thank you, Josh, for your list. We finally have the first Disney animated classic film on there. We have Snow White making its first appearance. We also have Brother Bear getting a shout out. And of course, the big one, Aladdin, getting the top spot in the end. I really like this list. There's a good variety in there across all different eras of Disney. So thank you ever so much for sending that in.
Yeah, I love Aladdin when the fact it's popped up as well. And Brother Bear, we were chatting, I think I've seen it. This is really bad to keep saying this. I was very surprised when Josh said it. And listen, I'm not going to call out his age. Josh is a bit younger. The same way we sort of would joke about Jed in the past. But I distinctly remember there being multiple Bear films in the early 2000s. And I don't know if Brother Bear was the first one or one of a couple. But so I think I've seen it. I just can't confirm.
I've got a fun little tidbit here. So back in the day, with all of the home media VHS releases of the Disney collection, I think at the time that we got them, it must have been when Brother Bear was either just about to come out in cinemas or had come out on VHS or something like that. So I feel like I've seen the Brother Bear trailer more times than I've seen Brother Bear itself. But that film is always remembered for me as almost like an advertisement of a film more than the film itself. I do need to go back and revisit it at some point in the future.
Is it Peter Pan that says "Here we go"? Because we copyright Fabrizio Romano. No, because on the DVD menu they'd always have the Disney trailer, and it begins with Peter Pan's "Here we go." Yeah, sorry, I just you set off. You set off like a child of PTSD. You know, you get the amazing "You wouldn't steal a car" advert. And
thank you, Josh, for the childhood PTSD with that list.
And following up, Josh, we've got Sarah bringing her back to the channel from Popcorn Talk. As I said, links are in the description. She's been on vlogs from some conventions recently. She's up for the love of horror, so do check that out if you like convention coverage as well as reviews and whatnot. But I'm delighted to get her back on. We'll press play now.
Hello, it's Sarah from Popcorn Chat, and I'm here to give you my top 10 Disney animated films. In at number 10, we have Alice in Wonderland. I really like the art style of this one. It was my introduction into this kind of world, which we've seen, replicated multiple times. But I really like the art style in this. I think it's rewatchable with this kind of dreamlike state. I know it's maybe a little bit different to the book, but I really enjoyed the colourful, flowers, and the characters are so memorable. And they're always referenced in pop culture. And I think this was the first time that a lot of, audiences were introduced to this story. I mean, it was definitely my introduction into Alice in Wonderland. In at number 9, we have a little bit more of an obscure one. We have Basil the Great Mouse Detective. Now, I watched this one as a kid and I thought I was the only person that saw it. It's so much fun. I mean, I love Sherlock Holmes. I mean, this was probably my first introduction to the character of Sherlock Holmes. So it was really great. And I think the villain is super scary. Even now, I think, the rat is absolutely terrifying. So I love the kind of cuteness of it all and all being miniature. And I think it still holds up. In at number 8, we have Tarzan. Now, this was, perfect time for me as a kid. And I think the music's great. As you get older, you really appreciate the Phil Collins soundtrack. And we're familiar with this kind of story. We've heard it time and time again, but I think it's executed really well. And I love the relationship between Tarzan and Jane and all the characters in the jungle. I think so fun. And again, the villain is very much real in this one. It's not necessarily a scary character, but it's people that we see within the society. Number 7, we have Robin Hood. Now, you'll see with this list that I love a hand-drawn animation, and I really enjoy this one. Again, lots of people are familiar with the story, growing up as a child, you've probably heard the Robin Hood tales. So to have it in a cartoon form and make the characters, or animals, sort of woodland creatures, I think it's perfect. And I think the charisma, especially of Robin and other characters, it's that familiar kind of myth and legend. So at number 6, we have Tangled. I think this is one of the better ones they've done in recent years. I think the songs are amazing. I'm always singing the tunes, I just absolutely love it. The art style is a lot more, polished and very much more modern. But I really enjoy the character dynamics in this and the relationships between everyone. And again, the villain's really sort of grounded, but she's fun, she's sassy. But I think for me, the music's so good. The lead characters are so good, and the people they meet along the way makes it for a really entertaining adventure. In at number 5, we have Lilo and Stitch. I think this one's on my list because I've just watched it so many times. I think I saw it in the cinema, and then I rewatched it on repeat, and the TV show and the sequels it spawned. I just love the kind of world of Lilo and Stitch, but the original, of course, is amazing. Again, this was probably one of my early introductions into Elvis, I'm sounding like Jacob Elordi here, but this was definitely one of my first introductions into Elvis, and it's just so fun, with the older sister and, the people surrounding their family, are really interesting. I like the introduction of aliens in this one. So, yeah, I think it's just because I've seen it so many times, it's always going to have that nostalgia for me. In at number 4, we have the Aristocats. And again, I love this one because I watched it on repeat. I think the VHS tape is probably worn out. And yeah, very much like Robin Hood, I enjoy the kind of hand-drawn era. It's maybe a little bit more obscure for a child to be watching on repeat, but I love the sort of, duos along the way. We have the dogs, we have the butler sort of chasing them, and then the cats are so cute, and there's this geese. Like, there's so many great characters. Again, they meet along this adventure. I just love it, and I think, there's not really many songs in this one, but I think the story is so strong. I loved it as a kid, and I still love it now as an adult. Okay, maybe some things don't hold up, but I think the world of the Aristocats is just so encapsulating. So at number 3, we have Mulan. Now, this was my first cinematic experience, so I'm going to love it. I was very much similar with Lilo and Stitch, where I loved the sequel as well. So I really enjoy this one because, it's just, the music's so good, the artwork's so beautiful. And again, it has that rewatchability, and it has that sort of sidekick characters of Mushu, and it's just brilliant. Again, this is one that probably doesn't hold up, and I can appreciate it, with that kind of retrospective view of it, but I think just the music's beautiful, and the journey that she goes on was really empowering to see as a child, and what she's willing to do, to fight for the honour of her father and her country. And yeah, it's just so fun. So at number 2, we have Sword in the Stone, which is one of my absolute favourite films ever. So I really like this one. I think, again, it's because it's that Arthurian legend. Everyone's familiar with it. There's a few songs in there, but again, I feel like it's more story-driven, this one. I love the artwork, and I love the relationship between Arthur and Merlin, and even the owl, Archimedes. There's so much going on here. And I think it's really sort of one of those more obscure ones, but I love it, and it's really hard to find merchandise, so please make more Sword in the Stone merchandise, people. And again, the villain's great, Madam Mim, she's really sort of quirky and cool, but yeah, terrifying as a child, absolutely terrifying. But when I think of this film, I think of bright colours, I think of legends, and yeah, I think more people should see this film. So at number 1, we have Hercules. That's absolutely encapsulated by this film as a kid, and even so now as an adult. Again, the songs are catchy. I love the kind of gospel sort of choir aspect to this film. Everyone is just so amazing in terms of the voice acting in this one. Everyone's doing such a good job. And again, it's kind of combining a lot of, infamous sort of tales and legends and, Macbeth and stuff. So there's a lot in here to sort of pick apart. When you're a child, you're just enjoying it. And I love that, you can still take a lot away from it as an adult. And it's just one that I think lots of people enjoy in that sort of Renaissance era of the Disney films. And for me, it has to be one of the best ones that came out then.
Thank you ever so much, Sarah, for your contribution to our lists. A few interesting ones in there, a few first-time ones. So we had Basil the Great Mouse Detective, which is one of the only Disney films I still haven't seen. I haven't got round to it yet. I don't know whether it would make my list or not. It's definitely on my list of things to go through before the end of the year. But thank you for being the first person to add that to any of the lists. And same with Sword in the Stone as well, showing some love for some films which maybe aren't showing or have been shown some love on other lists.
Yes, and a correction for me for calling the channel Sarah's Popcorn Talk is obviously Sarah's Popcorn Chat, which is always embarrassing to get the name of a channel wrong. But talking the Disney stuff, I was going to bring... You brought up a few that haven't been mentioned already. Robin Hood's made the list again, which is very interesting. And I'll tell you what's I've been clocking up. Lilo and Stitch has popped up on a fair few lists recently. So that's one to keep your eyes peeled. I don't think people are adding these up at home. Obviously, we're going to go through everything when all the videos are in. But you can notice trends, and sometimes it depends if a film's high up or low down. You never know. It's going to make it very interesting when we get to the big countdown. But before we get there, we've got one more video that's been sent in to us before. It's myself and Tate, and that's, of course, Sam. So we're just going to click play now for you.
Hi everyone, this is Sam, and this is my top 10 Disney animated theatrical release list. So at number 10, I have Little Mermaid, which is the beginning of the Disney Renaissance. I think it really laid the groundwork for what was yet to come. Although I do think it does, maybe not miss, it's not my total favourite. It really does end the 80s on a high. And I think it, things like the music and the characters, I think it really, as I said, lays the groundwork. It, does what it needs to do in order to bring Disney into a new era, which I think at that point was desperately needed to ensure its survival. And it did it in such a brilliant way. Ariel is a fantastic lead character, and Ursula is the same as the villainess. Really, really like this movie. At number 9 is Atlantis Lost Empire, which I think is an underrated classic. I hadn't watched it for about 20 years. I watched it again for the first time last night, and I had an absolute ball with it. I'm so glad I watched it again. I thought back to, my younger self who had, the crystal and had the submarine toy. I really appreciated it in such a different way. Whereas at the time, I probably more thought, oh, it's not a Disney princess film. It's not this type of film. Do I like it or not? Whereas I now know that I absolutely do. And yeah, I definitely believe that more people should watch it. And I love Milo and Keita. Love them as characters. Number 8 is Tarzan. Again, not what I would say is an underrated classic, but I do believe people should probably, talk about it a bit more. It's the end of the Disney Renaissance, but if that is the case, it does it in a brilliant way. I think the story is tragic. I love what it does. I love the Phil Collins music. Unlike other people, I do believe that it helps the film. I'm a big Phil Collins fan anyway, so that does help. But I think the songs are so fantastic. Son of Man and Strangers Like Me are some of my favorites. And yeah, I think the animation here is like peak. I really think they had perfected it anyway, but it looks so good in this film. At number 7 is Beauty and the Beast. I would say that film could have been made 40 years before, and it would have fit in. I think the thing that makes Beauty and the Beast stand out is Belle's agency and her quote unquote nerdiness. It makes for a more unique character, and I really understand her journey, and really roots for her. Same with the Beast, he's a layered character. There's more to him, and I really appreciate the journey that he goes through. They both go through a journey, and it leads to what I believe is a satisfying conclusion. And of course, Gaston is an idiot, but in the best sort of way for this type of film. At number 6 is Snow White, which is the first main animated feature film. Disney really took a risk by doing it. It's very difficult being the first to do something. You never know how it's going to turn out, but luckily they did it in such a great way that it was a success. I've got that post here. I watched that at the cinema a few months ago. Absolutely loved it. Thought everything on the cinema screen was amazing, and nothing seemed lost in translation. I think it's very difficult when we have such a modern sensibility and we've watched so many modern films, then go back and go, well, actually that's wrong and that's wrong. But I really respect all the creators who worked on that film for what they did. It did turn out great. The Evil Queen is my favorite Disney villain, and the dwarfs, including Grumpy, is are iconic for a reason. It's a fantastic film, maybe not the best, but definitely should be highly regarded. Number 5 is Aladdin, another Disney Renaissance film, fantastic film. Robin Williams kind of is the star of that film. It's quite sad watching that film now, but so thankful to have had that performance. And yeah, they really found their feet after Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast. They really did, figure everything out. And yeah, it all comes together in Aladdin. Love that film. Number 4 is Hercules, which I love. Kind of the ancient Greek kind of
era that they use here. The music I adore, Zero to Hero, one of the funkiest songs. I love the gospel elements to this soundtrack. I Can't Say I'm in Love is one of my favorite slow songs. Love songs from the Disney films. And yeah, some great performances all around by the cast. Number 3 is The Emperor's New Groove, and this is definitely, I think is a bit of a not controversial, but I think a lot of people do like this film. But to have it ranked so highly, it's a shorter film. It doesn't take itself too seriously, but that's what I like about it. It has such a unique point of view, for Disney at least, anyway. And for me, the clincher about this film is the Eartha Kitt and Patrick Warburton performances. I think they are so two completely different type of actor. The fact that they're together as a duo is amazing, and I will never get tired of that film. Number 2 is Sleeping Beauty, which I think is the epitome of classic Disney. I think everything is perfection in that film. I have no notes about that film apart from maybe I wanted a bit more Aurora as a character. But Prince Philip, the prince actually has a character. I love the fairies in that film, which sounds a bit weird for me to say. And the artistry, the animation, oh my god, I love it. It's just before Disney gets a bit lazy, but I just love everything about it. And Maleficent, of course, is one of the most iconic villains of all time. And finally, my number 1 is The Lion King, which, is no surprise, I guess. It's one of the most well-respected Disney films, and a well-respected film in its own right, as it should be. It's, not the most kind of, dramatic storyline, but it's very effective in what it does and the way it does it. It hits home a lot more for me. For personal reasons, and I think had this list been expanded to, things outside of the theatrical releases, the sequel, Simba's Pride, would probably be in my top 10 as well, because I love that film too. And this is Disney, at its height, at its peak. Everything, the cast, the animation, the music, the themes, everything works, and Scar is deliciously evil. And Simba I absolutely root for, and Mufasa is a fantastic parent. And Timon and Pumbaa are the best kind of supporting characters you could have. So that's my top 10, and I'm very happy to be sharing this with Cinema Savvy, and I hope everyone enjoys the rest of the lists that are available in this video.
Thank you ever so much, Sam, for our last submitted list on our top 10 ranking. I want to point out 2 things here, 2 things that stuck out for me from that list. Number 1 was Atlantis: The Lost Empire, getting onto a list. I quite like that film. It didn't make it onto my list. You'll find out about my list in a little bit, but I'm glad it got some form of representation across the board. And I want to also throw a massive shout out to Lion King, to Simba's Pride, because genuinely, it probably would have been on my top 10 list as well if we were allowing it. But it's not part of the original Disney Animated Classics collection, sadly. But no, I'm glad that you gave it a shout out. I will give it a shout out as well.
Without changing subject, I'm guessing that had Disney been like they are now, they would have Lion King 2 would have officially have been a film like Wreck-It Ralph 2 and Frozen 2.
Correct, yeah.
Which is always interesting. But we'll bring up Sam. I want to mention Sleeping Beauty finally made its way on, and you get to see that classic poster. This is it. I like seeing the original posters, and the higher the ranking, the more clearer the image. And as we can see, the Lion King's been up there a fair amount. But that's going to do it for everybody submitted a video. So once again, thank you to all the people that have sent in videos. This ranking today, we genuinely would not be able to do this without people's contributions. That's Charlie, Paul, Dave, Ren, Aaron, Josh, Sarah, and Sam. All the links in the description to their platform, so please do follow them on there. As I said, we've had many of these in the channel before, some new faces and some familiar ones. But the way these ranking videos work is we're going to end it with as. These aren't pre-recorded. Well, this video is, but our rankings aren't. So we're going to count down. We've each got our lists. I'm going to go first with mine, which is going to be very interesting to you. I've had to write it down to remember it because it was a short while ago. But in 10th place, I have Aladdin. Everyone spoke about Robin Williams. It's one of the best voice acting performances, and for better or worse, it kickstarted the trend of bringing in some of these A-list actors into this, which is very unfair on voice actors. But Robin Williams was able to make that jump so perfectly well, not for namesake, for actual voice acting ability, and it was great. As a shout out to the recent Disney anniversary video where they're able to bring him in with consent from the family for unused lines from Aladdin, which was the most important part. Number 9, Peter Pan. Listen, it's a story that's been told to death. They did another remake of it this year. I know it's in the public domain. Anyone can do it. I've always loved the Disney version when I was younger. I think it's Captain Hook. I don't know. There's just something about it. Maybe it brings back memories of watching Hook, the Spielberg one, but I've always liked the Captain Hook character and obviously the whole alligator crocodile stuff, which is a lot of fun as well. 8th place, Tarzan. This just popped up on our list today, but nobody said the obvious one. The amazing PS1 game. Yes, we're talking about the film, but the PS1 game, yeah. I can hear the main menu music in my head. I loved that game growing up. And listen, I love the film as well. Everyone spoke about the score. One of the most phenomenal Disney soundtracks. And I genuinely think Tarzan's not been bettered. And that's why... Not that they're going to do a live-action remake of it, because there's a gazillion Tarzan films. But
you didn't enjoy the Skarsgård version?
I didn't watch the Skarsgård one, thankfully. But this is at the peak, right? If there was an announcement, it's going to get compared to this, not any other version that's come before it. 7th place, Big Hero 6. Very much enjoyed this when it came out. I wasn't sure, if I'm really honest, when it came out, I wasn't sure. I was like, do I really want a Marvel film to be a Disney thing? I guess my qualms were pushed away when A, it was a great film, and B, they thankfully haven't just done here's an IP as a Disney classic, here's an IP as a Disney classic. I really liked Big Hero 6. It was a very unique choice, and I think it's held up, and everyone spoke about Baymax. Probably one of the most iconic Disney characters of the last 20 years, based off design, let alone function within story. 6th place, Little Mermaid. I was the youngest of 3. I've got 2 older sisters. Little Mermaid was the one that was on the most, and I really enjoyed it growing up. I like the songs. It's got some bangers. I've walked out of the live-action remake earlier this year. I've never walked out of Simple. Probably different reasons. There's a lot of things happening around that time of the year. But yeah, I really like The Little Mermaid. 5th place, 101 Dalmatians. I've always adored this film. We had dogs, not Dalmatians, but you had the live-action versions. I guess the Cruella one as well. It's a film that was on a lot when we were younger. We had the VHSs of this, the Glenn Close one. I've got a lot of attachment to this, and I think it's a really good film. And also, Cruella de Vil's just a batshit insane character, and I quite like those. And you know what? With a lot of these films on my list, a lot of it is down to the villains. And I think when you have, like, I'm not always prefer villains to heroes, but a cooler villain is always better than a cooler hero. Just by default, they always are. And Cruella de Vil certainly is, well, maybe not cool, she's insane, but that's the sort of thing that I enjoy watching out of these films. Number 4, a more modern one, Wreck-It Ralph. Loved this from day one. I remember picking it up. I had the actual Wreck-It Ralph game on my iPad at the time. Like, they actually released the game. I had a great time with this. It's one of my favourite Disney films, clearly. Probably one of my favourite animated films as a whole as well. I've got a lot of thoughts on this. I think it was an absolute masterstroke, and it was a really smart way to bring, I don't want to say the 21st century because it came out obviously like in the mid-10s, but it felt like the most contextual Disney film of video games, 21st century, boom, here's a great film that isn't made by people like, you know, some films just have a stigma of nobody likes games anymore, no one likes arcades. I'm so glad it never went down that route. Can't say so much about the sequel, but big fan of Wreck-It Ralph. We're into the top 3. This really gets tricky. This is where I have to start comparing favourites against what I think is the best. 3rd place, Beauty and the Beast. One of, if not the best animated. Of course, everyone's mentioned already that it's nominated for best film at the Oscars. Gaston's one of my favourite Disney villains. I absolutely adore the songs in this film. I always compare this to the Battle of Helm's Deep, but it was done better, and it was done 15 years earlier. Absolutely love this. An incredible voice cast as well. 2nd, I've got The Jungle Book, my favourite Disney film. I'll say this by default. It is my favourite Disney film. It's not top of my list for reasons I'll get into on the next one. but I've always had a massive attachment. I rewatched this recently on the day of the anniversary, actually, after they did the short film. I hadn't watched it in a couple of years. It transported me back to my childhood. Still love the elephants. One of them reminds me of my granddad. I don't know why. He always has. Didn't serve in the army, just always has done. And I love everything about this. It's always been one of my favourites. Love Shere Khan. But the reason it's not number one is because number one is the combination of what I think is the best, what have I enjoyed, connections to, all that stuff. It's The Lion King. Come on. Listen, I've seen Hans Zimmer far too many times. And every single time, except Interstellar Live, he has always played his Lion King suite. It is won his first Oscar. He's only won 2 somehow. It's got one of the greatest soundtracks ever put to screen. It is a retelling of Hamlet, Shakespeare done in the modern way. It is a perfect film. I have no faults with it. Again, a film taking childish side into it. My sister's traumatized by the Stampede soundtrack, so I used to put that on to scare her in the background. I absolutely adore it. And it's true, it's a fact. I've spoken about villains. Scar is the greatest Disney villain. I can sing all of Be Prepared. I'm not going to do it on the stream, but that is my Disney villain theme. It is the best one. It's the best. It's just,
well,
yeah. Perfect.
Now we need you and Paul coming on for a stream together.
I do it in person if I'd had a few strings, but I have to have the music on in the background, and obviously I'm not doing the hyena marching for blatantly obvious reasons. But no, Be Prepared is one of the greatest songs in literature. It comes on and you just can't help but pretend to do the Jeremy Irons voice, but the reality is no one else is Jeremy Irons, so you can't do it. But yeah, The Lion King is my number one. Jungle Book's my favorite. It was really hard to pick between 1 and 2, but like what we've done of the rankings over the years, I take a combination of what my favorite is, what I think is the best one, and what the pick is to the ranking itself. And I can't look past Lion King at number 1. So that's my top 10. I'm going to put the graphic on the screen now for people at home. They want to have a quick look. Again, a bit different. I know I don't talk about animated films as much. So I don't know how, if you predicted any of this, if anything was easier to predict, but
I was going to say, for me, the things that stick out is Peter Pan and 101 Dalmatians. First time they're showing up on anyone's lists, which is fascinating. Yeah. I know you love the Jungle Book and also the live action version of the Jungle Book. I know you've kind of spoken about that on the channel a few times before.
I rewatched the live action Lion King this week, and I'll be talking about that in a couple of weeks.
Oh boy, I don't like that film, but I'll talk about Lion King. No, I wouldn't have fully guessed your list, but it kind of makes sense now that I've seen it. Yeah. And I'm guessing you're going to be going through all of these lists and stuff like that. You're going to be like, oh, I need to watch this film now. I need to watch this film now. I need to watch this film now. With all of
there's a fair amount.
We're going to have a year where George is just going to watch nothing but animated films. It's going to be fantastic.
I've never seen a Studio Ghibli film.
I am shocked by that, and we've bit behind the scenes here. We always go through, what is the next retrospective we're possibly going to do, and Ghibli's been on the list for a few times now. So maybe that's going to be the next one. Who knows? Maybe we'll put it to a vote. We'll see what goes on in the future.
When they announced the last film, which they said they were, and it wasn't. But we're here to promote Disney. So
correct.
Moving on, we have your top 10 to go.
It's me. Okay, so going into my top 10, there were a lot of films which were on the bubble, and I basically had to go and watch a couple of them this week just to kind of make sure I got my rankings right. I do want to put in the disclaimer that I haven't seen a few of the Disney films, a few of the earlier ones, so we're thinking like Three Amigos, that era kind of thing, and I mentioned I hadn't seen Great Mouse Detective as well. But my number 10 pick, and it's the first time it's been picked by anyone, is Frozen. And I would happily defend Frozen. I think Frozen is an incredibly fun film. I think they improved on the animation that they set forward in Tangled. I think the songs are catchy and a massive improvement as well over Tangled. I really enjoy the character design. I really enjoy the plot premise. I'm okay with the twist villain because they were the first people to, set the trend for it and stuff like that. This film deserves a bit more respect than it's been given. I know a few people trash on this film. And I think this film deserves a bit more love because genuinely it is fun every single time I watch it. And I will probably be watching it again this winter. I do work in a winter-based environment, so Frozen songs, the characters and everything involved do get thrown around quite a lot. So that's why it makes my top 10 at number 10. At number 9, Sleeping Beauty. And this is purely for aesthetics. I absolutely adore this film based on its aesthetics alone. I love the plot as well. I think it's a classic, and I think it's the best of the old, the original kind of Disney classics being put out. I think, yeah, I don't really know what else to say. I love the gothic vibe to it. The animation is absolutely stunning, and Maleficent is one of the great villains in all of cinema. It's a shame that she, over the years she has been retold and retold in various different ways, but I will always remember her in that form in that film. Number 8, I've got Aladdin. A lot of people have talked about Robin Williams' phenomenal performance and what he brought to the role, but I want to talk a little bit more about the actual kind of story and the setting, and bringing that culture forwards and having just that put to the screen, because I really enjoyed exploring that side of the film. I also enjoyed the entire film scene with the giant Sphinx and everything that goes on inside there. I think Aladdin as a lead character is fantastic. The diamond in the rough, as has been previously said, and it does have some of the best songs going in Disney as well. So I really enjoyed that film. Number 7, we've got The Little Mermaid, the start of the Renaissance. And God, this film is purely ingrained into my childhood, purely based off myself having an older sister and, this film coming on a few times. I think the songs are incredibly strong. The performances of the voice acting is brilliant. I absolutely love Sebastian as a character. It's one of those films where I will always feel comfortable putting it on, and I'll always kind of go back to it as one of my most rewatchable Disney films across all of them. At number 6, I've got Hercules, purely for the muses, honestly. I think they bring so much energy to the film, and just, it's different. It's so different from all of the other Disney films in that same sense. The character's journey, the hero's story is brilliant as well to see on screen. I love kind of ancient civilizations, so ancient Greece is a great setting for a Disney film. But realistically, the muses are some of the most iconic kind of choices they've made for any Disney film, and having them, singing their way, kind of, telling the story as narrators is just brilliant for the film. At number 5, I have Mulan. Mulan has, once again, some of the best songs through Disney. Probably one of my favorite lead characters in a Disney film of Mulan. Her journey that she goes on is it's inspiring, which is weird to say for a animated film to have that kind of impact, especially when I was a kid. I mean, I'm not female myself, but I found her kind of story to be inspiring for not just myself but for other people. So I've always had that kind of connection with that film. I can't remember who mentioned it as well, but I love kind of the way they represent war in the film, and how it's kind of handled and everything like that. I think it's done very, very well. At number 4, just missing out on the top 3, we have Beauty and the Beast. A Tale of Older's Time. It's brilliant. It's really, really good. And I think my love for this film actually became, and my appreciation for this film actually became better after the live action remake came out. And this has been the case with a couple of the live action remakes. I appreciate the original film more because it shows that if you try and retell the story, you can't quite capture the magic. And this is one of those Disney films that has this inherent glow about it, this magic that surrounds it. From kind of the opening singing to the kind of closing remarks. It is just a beautiful fairy tale. And the fact that, it came at, I'd say the height of Disney's kind of reign and everything like that. People have mentioned it, and you should probably take a shot every single time someone mentions that it was nominated for Best Picture, guys. It deserved it. It fully deserved it. And it only owns 4th place on my list because there are other films above it, which I like for different reasons. So at number 3, we have Moana, which is my favorite of the modern Disney films. I absolutely adore the songs in this. I love the animation. I love the setting. I love the story. I think from all of these films is probably the most rewatchable Disney film for me. But, that's just me. I saw it in cinema and I've seen it loads of times since, DVD on Disney Plus as well. It's one of those films I can just always go back to. There's only one joke that I don't think lands in the film, but apart from that, the entire film is hilarious and it's a great adventure. And, you know, the character of Moana, I always get goosebumps when she does her reprise. You know, it's that song, you know, How Far I'll Go, is one of my favorite Disney songs of all time. So it gets into the top 3. And number 2, we have The Lion King, which has topped a lot of people's lists. And I'll be perfectly honest, this is the best Disney film. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. It's not my number 1 pick because my number 1 pick is my favorite Disney film. And I'll be honest, this film is perfection. I can't really give it any flaws other than I prefer another film over it. A lot of people have talked about how it's just poetry in motion. You know, it's Shakespearean. It tells off Hamlet. It's got great songs. It's got great cast. It's got great visuals. It's got great everything. I can't do anything but echo everyone else's comments. I can't bring anything new to the fold because people will continue to talk about this film for another 100 years. This is their peak. This is their absolute best thing they've put out. And I don't think they're ever going to top it. I don't think they've got a chance of topping it. However, my number 1 pick, I prefer Hunchback. I love the setting. I love the characters. The songs are my favorite songs from all of Disney. I just think that this film is a vibe and it vibes with me, and I will continue to, you know, back Hunchback as being an underrated classic that people are now starting to cotton on to. But honestly, you know, all the characters, Esmeralda, Frollo, the Hunchback himself, like it's just such a great film. It's inspiring. It has, you know, some of the darkest moments in Disney, which I always like, the kind of darker tones thrown in and everything like that. It's brilliant. It's fantastic, you know. There's nothing much more I can say other than, you know, go watch Hellfire on repeat, you know.
Wow. That's it. I'm going to bring your graphic up now for people at home to have a look as well. So I kind of knew Hunchback would be number 1. I mean, we've been doing this channel for 7 years. We've done Disney videos in the past.
I've said it so
Hellfire's
many
been
times.
brought up. Yeah. So I have seen Hunchback of Notre Dame in the last couple of years or so. And obviously it's impossible in, I guess, modern lenses not think about the fake Peter Capaldi being cast in the film that's never been announced. It pops up like once a year. Peter Capaldi's been cast. I'm like, but they haven't announced the film. So yeah, when the time comes. And I like the fact you've also got, again, sibling side of it, Little Mermaid gets brought up from there. Frozen, the first time it's made the board, which is interesting, very interesting. And Sleeping Beauty following it from Sam that we've got on Twitter. So a couple of times. It kind of went the way with. We've definitely spoke about Mulan before on the channel. Not the live action version, because that was a very controversial video. Not controversial of what we did. That was let's we're already dealing with one genocide in the world at the moment. We don't need to talk about another. No. But this should be spoken about. Sorry, I made the wrong error there. But not on this video. But that's a very awkward way to round out that top 10 series. Let's okay. So what comes next for people at home that are curious? So we have everyone's top 10s. We have but I know the points. Tayte doesn't know who's won. I know, and I've done the artwork. We're going to do a countdown. And the way we're going to do it, we'll bring up the graphic on the screen. We'll be saying what the ranking position is, the points, and the film. If there are a draw, there is no, this person was higher, this was higher. If two are on the same points, they're on the same points. The poster order is done based on the year they were released, so there is no picking and choosing, and this deserved to be there. They draw. And to our luck, I don't mind saying this, we have still never had a draw in the top 10. So, because I'm dreading the artwork when that has to happen. But if we get things going, Tayte, how do you want to do this?
Let's pull up the ones that didn't get a vote. Because
I have the entire list. If you'd like me to try and read them out, there are 27 films on 0 points in 28th place.
I don't think you have to read them out, but I will go ahead and say that there are a few on there which I am surprised didn't get any votes. For example, I'm shocked that Cinderella didn't get any votes. I'm a little bit shocked that The Black Cauldron didn't get any votes, as a lot of people enjoy that film as a, kind of throwback. Those are kind of two which are standing out to me. Well, I guess Pocahontas is the most popular out of those, right?
Yeah, Pocahontas is interesting because I feel
Yeah.
it's very generational now, where I don't think the kids of today would be going back to watch Pocahontas. And without getting into politics again, I
Colors
guess
of the
because
Wind is a beautiful song, but the film is heavily flawed. And Savages is a great song as well, but once again, heavily flawed.
and I guess with the real life side of Pocahontas, without getting into that side of things, that makes it. And again, I can't say it made it age badly, but I don't think Pocahontas is the film which. I guess the strength of the Disney is the generation. We spoke about with Surprise Cinderella didn't get anything. It came out in 1950. By far the most popular Disney, well, not most popular Disney film, but in theory, Cinderella is probably the most iconic Disney film ever made. And I always compare it to Star Wars with this. Certainly, when the build to Episode 7 happened, that when it's generational is a term overused, but with Disney, the strength really comes down to will the kids and the kids be watching that film. You mentioned The Lion King is kind of 100 years at the top. I see that. And a lot of these films, hey, maybe if you had a few more people, these would have made it too. But this is the list.
If we're doing it based on score alone, Dinosaur would be number 1, or maybe Lion King would be number 2, but the Dinosaur score is phenomenal. I just want to point that out.
One I just really want to quickly point out is, again, there's only 10 people submitting top 10s, but I really enjoyed Raya and the Last Dragon.
I didn't enjoy it, so
and that's fair. I just didn't know that might have creeped into like a 10th place somewhere. But the rest of these, again, Bambi, trauma, Pinocchio, trauma from the live action one last year.
Yeah.
Or
is it possibly because Guillermo del Toro has done probably the best version of that film now?
Yeah, no, but that's a very cool. And also, it's a tale as old as time. I know that's a Disney pun, but so we're going to leave on for a couple more seconds so you can all take in the 28th position. And in 27th place with 1 point is Frozen. Again, I know it was on your list. I know it was in 10th. And we're not analysing every single position, but there's a lot of films. There's 61 films. There's 10 rankings. What I will say about this ranking compared to other ones we've done, we've not had the volume. We've had Bond, which had 25 films, which was the most when we did one of these videos. So the points aren't going to flow as massive as, say, Star Wars, where there were only 12 slots for 10 films to be getting points every week. So Frozen in 27th.
In 26th place, with 2 points, we have Alice in Wonderland, Peter Pan, The Great Mouse Detective, Atlantis, The Lost Empire, and Brother Bear.
Very fair. Peter Pan. Again, I like seeing the posters, but I can't really follow these. Alice in Wonderland, again, cropped up on a couple of lists. And listen, with something like Disney, right, if you've seen all 61, you've got to pick 10 out of 61. And I've said this about every ranking video we've done, not that we could extend it, but if it was a top 15, the points would look so different because of the 10 to 15 position places, which is always worth considering. So, and this again, Peter Pan was on my list. Atlantis was Sam's, Josh's Brother Bear, Alice in Wonderland, Sarah and Charlie. Joint in 25th place with 4 points, we have Fantasia and Encanto. Encanto didn't crop up on many people's. One person's actually, to be precise.
And yet it's meant to be one of the most popular Disney films, according to Disney, that they've put out in recent years. Or is it of all time now? I can't remember.
It's their most popular streaming, not streaming film as in streaming film, but
most popular. Yeah.
And they also forgot to submit the right song for Best Song at Oscars, which was one of the biggest own goals in Oscar history.
Absolutely did. And Fantasia getting some love there as well. At number 24, or 24th place, with 7 points, we have Zootopia or Zootropolis, depending on the region of where you are watching it. I enjoyed this film. It's very rewatchable. It almost made it onto my list as well.
And in 23rd place, with 9 points, we have Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, the very first Disney film. We can finally get the poster on the big screen. That's the good bit about this ranking page. We get to see the posters, and it's cropped up on a couple of people's lists.
In 22nd place, with 10 points, we have 101 Dalmatians, which I believe was only on your list, George. You're the sole person who is representing 101 Dalmatians.
I know, and what's sort of more frightening is that it was beaten by a different dog, because in 21st place we have Bolt with 12 points, one of the biggest surprises to make it on. But listen, that's what it's all about. Everyone's got varying opinions of these.
In 20th place, we have the Aristocats. We have a lot of animal-themed picks in a row here. So that appeared on a few people's lists, so a bit of love being spread around for Aristocats.
Yeah, and following that in 19th place, we have, of course, Dumbo on 15 points. Oh, what a great poster. Again, some of these are the first times I've seen some of these posters. And I like, not to moan about film marketing, but hand-drawn posters always look so much better than what we have these days.
In 18th place, with 16 points, we have The Little Mermaid. I'm actually quite shocked that this is not lower down, not, close to the top 10 from people's rankings. I thought Little Mermaid was a little bit more popular than it was.
I thought it was going to be like a top 10 lock-in for some reason.
Yeah.
I guess I got it very wrong. But yeah, and following that, in 17th place, we've got another draw. We have The Sword in the Stone and Treasure Planet, both on 18 points. Again, two very different picks. It's great to see Treasure Planet. As I said, I've got that poster memory from whatever merch, the book novelization, that's what it was. And again, more hand-drawn posters with the original Sword in the Stone. This is the 100th anniversary of Disney. We wanted to go back and treat these films as best as we can, getting the posters on. So that's why we've got that one.
In 16th place, we have Sleeping Beauty with 20 points.
15th place with 22 points, we've got Princess and the Frog.
In 14th place with 24 points, we have The Jungle Book.
Thought it'd be higher. Sorry. 13th place, another draw. 29 points, Mulan and Big Hero 6. Again, Big Hero 6 pops up on a lot of lists.
I want to point out, I am shocked that Mulan didn't make top 10. That is a big surprise for me, at least. And it's also a big surprise to see Big Hero 6 so high up. But then again, it is my sister's favorite film. So, if she was adding to this list, this would have been even higher. In 12th place, we have, with 31 points, Robin Hood.
See, the points are starting to get higher now, aren't they? The higher we get at the table, the points are going to get up quicker. In 11th place, with 35 points, we have Moana, just missing out on the top 10. Just ever so close.
And we now get into the top 10. So this is voted for by our collaborators from the channel, from myself and George. This is the top 10. At number 10, we have Lilo and Stitch with 36 points. A lot of love from a lot of different lists. I need to go back and watch it again. It seems like this is a film that a lot of people grew up with, and it's stuck with them. So I'm glad to see it's been, represented well. And yeah, it's made it into the top 10.
And next up, I think maybe the most recent film, in 9th place, with 38 points, we have Wreck-It Ralph.
Yeah, the video game one. I enjoyed Wreck-It Ralph, and I'm actually surprised that it managed to get into the top 10. I didn't realize it was that popular. So very, very interesting. In the 8th spot, we have The Emperor's New Groove with 40 points. Came up high on a couple of people's lists. It wasn't very well spread, but a few people really, really rating this film highly has catapulted it up into the top 10.
Absolutely, and this is what I kind of like, that the beneficiary of the points, rather than doing 10 to 1, you get more weight on your number one pick, that your favorite, your best pick, you get that extra bit of boost, essentially, for the rankings, which I do like. It's a double-edged sword, but I like it because it shows how important, especially for your second and third spots as well. And with that in mind, 7th place, we're going to get another big point swing now. 50 points, we have Tarzan, of course, classic. PS1 game.
That poster is fantastic, I want to add as well. Yeah, the PS1 game is also stuck in, the music is stuck in my memory as well. But the film and all the Phil Collins music going with it.
I remember all the monkey noises. You'd have to collect lives and stuff. And just be
it's the collecting of the bananas and the coconuts and various different things, stuck with me. Anyway, moving on. In 6th place, we have Tangled with 52 points.
This got a lot higher than I thought. It started cropping up. When the videos were coming in, Tangled was like one of the most consistent performers, which is why it's sick. It's been on, I think, almost every list.
I knew people liked it. People liked it.
And it's interesting. So that's rightfully higher up. And in 5th place, with 54 points, we have The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Of course, your number one pick. Again, a film that's cropped up on I mean, of course, we're in the top 5. They're going to start cropping up, aren't they? But very high. And it's great to see it. And also, that's a phenomenal poster. I know I've said that a lot tonight, but that really is an outstanding poster.
Excellent, excellent. And now we move on to the top 4. In 4th place, we have Aladdin with 58 points.
Very fair.
I'm intrigued by this. It's fair because it appeared on a lot of people's lists. I think a lot of people just talking about kind of fond memories of the film. A lot of people talking about, Robin Williams' fantastic vocal performance as well, catapulting this. For me, this was, a massive thing in my childhood growing up. And I know it would have been for a lot of people as well. So glad to see it doing so well on our list.
Yes, absolutely. That, and we're going to take a massive jump up now as we break into the top three,
The
the podium
big three.
places.
The big three.
In third place, arguably one of the biggest shocks of the night, on 90 points, is Beauty and the Beast.
I thought this would have come second, genuinely.
So did I.
I think I knew what was going to win, but I thought Beauty and the Beast would, first of all, appear on everyone's lists. And also I thought it would come second.
Same. I thought this was locked in second from like the day the video was announced. But it wasn't, which is great because some people might be wondering, what's next? What is next, Tate?
Here we go. Pipping it to second place is Hercules with 93 points. Oh, so close in the points. But I'm glad that Hercules has done so well getting up into second place.
Yeah, listen, it's fair. It made the jump, and it's been quite high on a few people's list as well. So it is great to see that. And again, it's that 90s run, right? Where the Renaissance, as people have said, an era itself propelled the studio back into where it is. And those films are not just because of our ages growing up with a lot of these, VHS crowds, right? We didn't grow up with streaming service like today's youth. We had to go see it on VHS, and that was one of the ones that would have been worn out by a lot of people. And I don't even remember, to go off point, you have a rainy day at school, they'd wheel in the TV with the VHS player.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Always Disney films. But listen, we're here for a top 10 ranking. We've got to number 2. We all know what's going to be number 1. Without a shadow of a doubt.
I picked it from the start. I was like, yeah, 100% that's winning.
Yeah, but I didn't think we would have such an almighty slam dunk in first place with almost double, with 171 points.
Jesus,
The Lion King.
Okay, so it's just unanimous at this point, like
this is insane. So, for anyone curious at home, I knew The Lion King had mathematically won before the last 2 videos came in. I knew it had won about 4 before, but mathematically, it's like Max Verstappen. We've got the F1 points, we've got the domination.
It basically got, 171 points out of a possible 250. That is insane.
That's insane. As you put it like that, that's even more insane. And
we will never have a bigger landslide in any of our rankings that we do in the future. I
checked our prior ones. I checked Bond, Infinity Saga, Spielberg, Star Wars. There has not been a gap this big. Quite comfortably, the domination. We've got the top 10 on the screen as well for people that are still watching, and it's one of those where you just can't. It would look. There's something poetic about the poster, right? And Mufasa looking down as he's sort of destroyed the rest of Disney. I say destroyed, top of the ranking. But would this look odd? It should be number 1, isn't it? It's kind of what we said. And I'm not glad it is, because we don't go in with that sort of agenda. But looking at the top 10 as a whole, because this is a Disney top 10 ranking video, and we've not done it for animated stuff before, I like that we do have the variety. Someone's going to comment and say there's nothing before 1990, which is understandable. But even seeing things like Wreck-It Ralph jump on, and Lilo and Stitch and Tangled, we've still been able to bring in different eras of Disney, whilst having some lovely surprises, I'd say, like Hercules, and of course then having The Lion King at the top, as we expect.
It seemed like there was loads of kind of, close battles and really close grouping for the amount of votes given across the board, apart from, I guess, the big leak up to the top 3, and then, Lion King way out ahead. But let's be perfectly honest here. Lion King has stood the test of time amongst the generations. I get goosebumps every single time I hear the soundtrack or the score or anything like that. It's been a successful stage play as well. It's just transcended kind of what it was originally, and it was the peak of its time. It was the highest grossing film of its time and stuff like that. It had done almost everything perfect. And all of the, you know, remakes and sequels and various different things that come out afterwards have not even, you know, gotten close to touching how good the original film, how good they had it in the first place. And I can't remember who mentioned it, but the fact that it was a Pocahontas B project, you know, and
Yeah.
it's ended up being, you know, probably, dare I say, I mean, this is our list, of course, but I think if there was a wider list done, I think Lion King would still come out on top. You know, it's one of those
I agree.
films that would just win no matter what. So
I think when I don't know if there's such thing as Disney historians, but I'd imagine if you had, you know, I know a lot of us are younger that have contributed to this. A lot of us, you could say, 90s kids, some younger, some older as well. But if you had people of different ages, like different decades, evened out, I think, as you said, Lion King's still going to be number one. And it's what it's successfully done almost 30 years later is the children of today are still going and watching The Lion King. Now, I'm not going to talk about live action remakes. That's unfair on this ranking. We're ending it, but generational is a term why some of these films are being remade, and The Lion King was always top of the food chain to end up being done, in which we know it wouldn't. Of those remakes, I think it's in the top 10 highest grossing films in history still, which is insane. But we're not here to talk about live action ranking. We have done our own animation ranking. Of course, as we said, this video has been done with Wish coming out this Friday, the 100th anniversary of Disney, which was last month as well. So we hope people have enjoyed this. We don't get to do ranking videos often. There's a great deal of effort that goes into them. We love doing them, but it's got to be a video that needs to be made, and why we're doing it, whether it's the end of a retrospective, whether it's to celebrate an anniversary or a big event, like which is what we've done today. They're a lot of fun to do, and they are very hard work to do. So once again, a massive thank you to every single person that's contributed, that's took in time to record videos, to do rankings. It's not easy to rank things. When it's personal like this, it's not easy. So once again, it's Charlie, Paul, Dave, Ren, Aaron, Josh, Sarah, Sam, Tayte, you as well, obviously. We're recording this, we're taking time out to do this. It's always a pleasure doing these. And to everybody watching at home, I hope you've liked the ranking. And as we said, comment your top 10. Could it be wildly different? Who knows? But as I said, there is no ranking that's been the same. You don't get that. We haven't even had close to a similar ranking. We might have one to pop up here and there, but everyone's been so sparsely different, and that's what makes it exciting. When these videos come in, when we get to see what people have, it's always interesting to listen to them and to know what films are special and as to why they are.
Exactly. And I can only just, you know, echo those comments. Thank you to everyone for, you know, putting in their submissions, and please do send your submission in, whether it's a comment or a tweet, and, you know, George will send you over a copy of your own personal ranking, as it's something that, you know, we enjoy doing. We enjoy doing these rankings. We enjoy kind of seeing what the community thinks and everything like that. We want as many people to get involved as possible. So please, you know, comment down below with what your ranking would be down there. Do you agree with our ranking? Some people, I challenge anyone out there to find someone who doesn't like The Lion King or wouldn't put it, you know, in their top 10. But yes, thank you ever so much, everyone, for that.
Definitely. And with that being done, as we said, Wish is out on Friday, the 24th of November. We will have a review up as soon as we can. We'll put it on our social medias when we do. Things are very busy at the moment. We've got the Doctor Who anniversary this week. We've got the Saturday night streams, which are going to be coming in for Doctor Who. More details on our social medias. Go get us on linktree.com/cinemasavvy. We've had a load of new releases. This week's been insane. We've had the Ross Brawn documentary. We've had Monarch Legacy of Monsters. We've had Film for the Weekend, which I put Godzilla for the very reason of there. We've had some other new releases. We've got the Hunger Games as well. So it's been busy, and it's been great to do this video. So once again, thank you everybody watching at home. Thank you everybody for submitting in, and we'll be sure to see you on the next one. Take care.